Welcome everybody to another episode of Waconia Wrestling Live, our podcast. It's Jeff Catherman as always, and we are blessed tonight to be able to continue our interview with lots of members of our Waconia Wrestling community from past, present, future, and we're definitely excited to interview Tyler Wagener tonight, who's been a long time kid in the program, and Tyler is a three-time state finalist, two-time state champion, and four-time medalist, and a current wrestler at the University of Augustana in Sioux Falls. So I want to welcome Tyler to the podcast. How's it going, buddy?
Good to be here, Jeff. I like this a lot. I was just telling you before, I think this is great for the program, and hope that it keeps rolling, be able to keep us guys at college updated on what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. And we don't have a ton of formal, as I mentioned, we're doing some prep with Tyler tonight. We're going to keep this a little bit informal and keep it as a conversation really for the fans, friends of the program, kids, parents, etc., to really continue to get to know our wrestling family. And Tyler, you're a big part of it over the years, and especially your family. And so for those that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and, your trajectory and just your history through the program, which I understand started at a pretty young age, and you're now in your 20s now. So take us with what's the journey been like for you all these years?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's my wrestling career is actually almost coming to an end here now with my last year at Augustana. But yeah, like you said before, it was through the program ever since I was in preschool. My dad got me involved, obviously, at a very young age. I don't know how much of a choice I really had. Whether I don't think I could go out on the court dribbling a basketball. So got handed a pair of wrestling shoes, and from there I just kind of fell in love with it. Didn't have a ton of success in my youth days, I'd say. About six, I think I placed one time. That was my sixth grade year at NYW. I took second, lost to a Wisconsin kid from Law, which I still am not sure how that worked out, but hey, I'm a little bitter about it still. But seventh and eighth grade,
the lacrosse kids are kind of a dichotomy. They're wrestling in Wisconsin, they're wrestling in Minnesota. Nobody knows what's going on.
Yeah, once we found out where he was from, I was like, "Are you kidding me? This kid doesn't even go to school in Minnesota." But he ended up going to school later on in high school in Minnesota, so I guess I'll forgive him. But no, then it's like you said. I mean, we had a good team when I was in youth, but I was definitely not our standout guy on those teams. I mean, I was decent, but didn't really have much success. And then seventh and eighth grade year, started to see a little bit. My seventh grade year, I started on the team, but gosh, I don't even know if I was 500 that year. There was a lot of times I got put to my back. We'll just say that. And then eighth grade year, I only wrestled 3 matches, and I think that was a big turning point for me because I felt like I was going through the puberty stage and all that, but I kind of just started to figure out who I wanted to be and how successful I could be. So I mean, that summer I really made some leaps, and coming into my ninth grade year, I kind of shocked the state by taking second to state. Wasn't ranked throughout the whole year until I think the end of the year. I was ranked like 8th or something like that, and had some big wins at the state tournament. So that was when I really got to kind of see how good I could be. Placing second in the state as a 9th grader, I was like, dang, I could be something special here. And big part of that was just the people I had that I looked up to. When I was a kid coming into the room, my dad always brought me when I was about 5th, 6th grader, always coming in there rolling around with those guys, and was looking at Joe Nord, Aaron Cook, watching those guys. And then big one for me was Jacob Steinbauer. Really he was kind of my big leader growing up. So it was good to have those guys. And that was kind of my big inspiration, is I wanted to be the next one of them to inspire, the next Max McAnally, Maverick, those guys that are coming through. So yeah, I mean, after my 9th grade year, I went into my sophomore year, actually took 3rd, lost to the same guy. And then my junior year and senior year, I had pretty dominant seasons, winning the state title those years. And now here I am at Augustana. Haven't had the success I want to yet, but have definitely had some big wins. My freshman year, I came in right away and started. Had a pretty good year. Had a tough regional tournament. And then my sophomore year, I moved up weight class and redshirted, which that probably was my toughest year for me mentally and physically in wrestling. I mean, I hadn't gotten my butt beat for a while, and then that year I moved up. I was coming off concussion, had a surgery, and then I just wasn't the same. You want to ask Cade Mueller about it sometime about it. I'm sure he always gives me crap about it to this day. I mean, I looked like a turtle in the mud. I couldn't move my feet out there, and then mentally I just couldn't get it going. And then that summer, like again, I think I just kind of, like I said, I've had a lot of injuries along the way and roadblocks, and able to push through and had a good junior year and made the national tournament. So here I am on my last year, and then last year didn't go the way I wanted. Had a really tough bracket. Had the number 1 kid in the nation, number 2. I was number 5, and then we had the number 6 as well. So ended up losing at regionals, the number 1 and 2. But it's good. I'm pretty motivated going into this last season. I actually had wins over a kid who took 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 5th in the country. So it's kind of tough watching guys that were All-American, even the national champ I've beat before, and watching those guys go out there being on the podium, being the best guys in Division II when, I've beat 3, 4 of them that were on the podium, and while I was sitting in the stands watching it. So that was tough, but it's definitely motivated me a lot for this last year. And sure, my body's beat up and stuff, but mentally I'm definitely in a really good spot and want to go out there and, make one last good run at it. So
yeah,
I
that's
guess
great.
that's a little background, I guess. For some of you that didn't know me, Jeff wanted me to get a little background about it. But yeah.
No, that's awesome. And you have inspired so many of the younger kids over the years that are now not as young anymore, but I can at least attest to, we every year do, all our 6th graders talk to our the keynote speakers at our youth parent meeting in November. And I remember probably 3-4 years ago now, Carter, my oldest son, we among the questions we have them answer are, who are your inspirations? And you were definitely called out as one of Carter's primary inspirations. And so I know he's not alone in that. And we just appreciate all the model on the mat and off the mat that you've set for the kids for so many of these years, especially with, working with kids in the off season and training. And talk a little bit about that. In today's world of now, specialized sports, a lot of kids are wrestling year round. I know that you didn't wrestle year round, but you didn't do any private club training, at least, extensively, but I know that you wrestled a lot in the off season with Timmy Stapleton, with Cade, maybe Juice. Talk a little bit about kind of what your usual off season would look like kind of coming through high school.
Yeah. I mean, that was where I made a lot of strides for me. And it basically kind of just boiled down to a group of us saying, hey, I want to go out there and be great, and let's get on the mat, 2 to 3 times a week. Let's go for a couple runs a week. Let's go lift some weights, just, it's not like we are doing, crazy hard workouts, but we're getting on the mat, whether that's going out and just getting some live in or getting some crushing down some technique. But it also came to, I was very generous to have some really good coaches by my side, Saf, Derek, Heck, my dad, Pettit, John May. I mean, those guys, I was very fortunate. Waconia's, they don't really realize how blessed they are to have such good high school coaches where, I mean, those guys easily could go be college coaches. And that's kind of where I got to be, is those guys kind of pushed me to start wrestling in the off season. And I didn't do as much freestyle. No, I wish I would have, but at the time, in our like in Waconia, we didn't have a lot of people that didn't go and do that. I mean, Heck, Garrett was the only guy his senior year. I think he went and did Fargo. And other than that, I mean, I wish I would have, looking back at it, because it would just made that much better. But just getting on the mat, I think, in the spring, whether, even if you're in baseball, just getting on the mat once or twice, there's a Sunday you can maybe even get on, or a Monday you don't have practice, something like that, where it just makes so many strides for you, just especially as you're figuring out your body and kind of growing into your footwork. It helps you just advance that much faster for those guys in the high school.
100%. Yeah, I think that's great perspective in that, and it's cool story you guys have. Your kind of nucleus, and forgot to mention Max was in there. I know he's several years younger than you, but
Yeah.
was always, wasn't far off in terms of weight
Yeah.
for you guys, even though I think he's probably 4 or 5 years younger. But yeah, I think it's this year, or I think since COVID, and your guys' model shows. I mean, remember the old model for kind of off season used to be either, you go freestyle or you do a couple of camps. Well, I think you guys kind of showed, and I think it was proven out during COVID, regular practicing, just staying on the mat, staying sharp every week or two, or just regularly is a great way to make gains, right? And lifting and just some of these other, and obviously the spring sports can be a part of that, but staying on the mat and keeping it fun is a great way to keep getting better.
Yeah, 100%. I think the big one is keeping it fun, like you said. Like, it shouldn't be, so there's definitely times where I don't want to go work out, but at the same time, you got to find a way to joke around with, whether it's starting out the practice with a game or, just having some fun with the guys, joking around, maybe just getting in there, sparring around some situations, trying stuff that you maybe saw on TikTok nowadays or Instagram, or just trying some new moves and just keeping it light is definitely, like, that's what I mean. I mean, there's days where you need to get in there and get a good one in, but there's, especially in the summer, I mean, it's a great time to just break down some technique and, focus on the skills where you need to develop.
Yeah, for sure. So among the many audience members of this podcast tend to be on the parent side. And one question I always ask our guests that are in our program here is, what are some, you've been blessed with having some great parents, mentors that have helped you and your brother Josh through the sport. What are some, best practices that you could share that your parents really helped you with, and from a support perspective, to really that enabled you to be successful?
Yeah, you couldn't say better. I mean, I was blessed with my dad and my mom. I wouldn't have been the wrestler I was without those guys. They were there for me in every little bit. And big thing is just kind of having your kids back. They're going to be, obviously, come back, be down in the dumps, whether they had a bad day at practice and maybe they just need a meal in front of them and they just need to go to bed. Sometimes they don't need to be heckled about what went wrong. They got coaches for that, and I think that's what happens a lot is, there's a lot of like coaching on the side where they don't necessarily need that when they're at home. They just need peace. They need their mind off of wrestling, Then I think there's a lot of times, and my coach tells us that all the time. He's like, you come in here, you focus on wrestling, but once you get out there, forget about it. Let your mind at ease. Like, that's how kids burn out, especially when they're maybe having a bad time in the year, is that they go home and it's just, oh, let's drill more with wrestling talk. What went wrong? And then, sometimes you get it where some parents don't even wrestle and then they're still harping on their kid on how to shoot a single leg. It's like, well, let's let that one for the coaches. Like I said, Waconia's got amazing coaches and they know what the kids should be doing on the mat, and they definitely know how to help them mentally. So I think the big thing is just being a backbone for them and having their back through it. And maybe they're cutting weight, just helping them out with meals, especially in high school.
Yeah.
I mean, I had my mom helping me out with meals all the time, showing me how to eat. Obviously, my dad, too, with being a wrestler and wrestling coach, he was very good about helping me with meals. But like I said, sure, do we talk wrestling and stuff? Yeah, but there was a lot of time we just, maybe we went out on the ice and went fishing. Maybe we just talked about the upcoming hunting season or stuff like that. I mean, there's plenty of times where you just want your mind off of wrestling, and I think that's a big mistake sometimes, is how kids burn out, especially at the youth age. I ran a few camps back in South Dakota this summer, and I always say that when the parents are in there, I always let them know, like, hey, if your 8-year-old doesn't want to go to a tournament on a Saturday, Sunday, you probably shouldn't have them going, because they're just going to burn out. Like, that at that age,
Right.
wrestling should just be fun. It shouldn't be pushing them. All right, every Friday, Saturday, Sunday tournament. You see so many good youth wrestlers burn out because they just get pushed so hard by their parents. And that was something, we didn't do all the time. There's plenty of times we went to a Saturday, Sunday, but that's because me and Josh wanted to go,
Right.
But then there was definitely times where we didn't go. Maybe we missed a practice during the week because we didn't want to go. We were really crabby and just weren't feeling it that day. And you really figure out who yourself. I mean, those youth days, yeah, they matter. Sure, just they're good for you to figure out your body and break down some technically you really boil into yourself like, that 8th, 9th grade year. And I mean, some people don't break into their selves till their senior year. I mean, my brother is a great example of that. He's gotten a heck of a lot better from his college.
Oh, for sure.
So, yeah. I mean,
talk a little bit more about the youth journey, because you kind of skipped over it a little bit, but I think that in my I'm coming up on 10 years being involved with the youth program and just the club in general, and the more and more I study the sport, the more and more it's definitely evident that the success, and I think it's a myth, the success at the youth level is an indicator of the high school. I think that's it's like a Venn diagram, but it's kind of a small part of it, right? In that so much changes in that 7th through 9th and beyond, the 7th through 12th grade part of the program. And talk a little bit about kind of the jumps that you made, and especially, Tim and Cade and just the group, Garrett. You guys just became totally different wrestlers from youth to high school. And what were talk about maybe just some of those foundations that you had in youth, but what were some of the things that really, helped you get to that just stratospheric level, especially, placing in, getting the state finals your freshman year?
Yeah, I think just a big thing was, like you said, getting on the mat when I wanted to, having fun with the sport, not burning out through it, but also being around a good group of guys, finding a group of guys that, whether it's, for me, I was blessed with that too. Is like you said, I had Cade, Garrett, Justin, my buddy Jake Hawkins, McAnally's, all that. But we found a good group with us, and we kept working hard, and a lot of us weren't that good, but we just kept coming to practice. Consistency is huge in wrestling. Like, you just got to keep being consistent, and the results will come eventually. You just keep working hard, and the results will come. And some will come faster than others. There's plenty of kids like Tim. Tim actually was a really good youth wrestler, but he kept being, he kept being consistent with it, kept showing up, and he's kept continuing to grow as a wrestler.
Right.
But for us, I think it was just staying consistent, getting on the mat, coming to practices, going to tournaments when we wanted, going to camps when we wanted to. Sure, there was maybe a little extra push for a camp here in the summer or something like that, or our parents giving us the opportunity to go out there. But big thing is just staying consistent with it, and having a good attitude.
Yeah, and you've had a chance to really kind of transition even from wrestler to starting your coaching into the realm of coaching now. Last summer, you and Cade were among the main clinicians at kind of our summer open mat practices. Talk a little bit about the role change from college wrestler to then being in that coaching role.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to get into coaching and come help out the program when I'm done and get back in the area. I like it a lot. And a big thing is, just even getting to help out with those camps in the summer with the guys, or getting to instruct some camps out in South Dakota. Just really like to see the kids improve and, be one of those leaders that I got to look up to for these guys. And big one for me is like my brother, obviously right now coming through the ringers. It's been great getting to work out with him and be able to coach him as much as I can. And
yeah,
I know how, I get more nervous for his matches than I do for mine. So, that goes for a lot of my teammates, but obviously his as well. So,
yeah,
I definitely want to get back into the program and help out as much as I can, whether it's just being a volunteer assistant or what it may be.
Awesome.
But I'll definitely be back and helping out. Coaching is something that I've always wanted to do, and I've said that since 7th grade, and it still hasn't changed. So, yeah, and obviously Waconia holds a good spot. So.
Perfect. Well,
yeah.
I think it's safe to say we would love to have you in any role that you would want to, in whether it's youth or high school. I think you're probably you've mentioned you're really more interested in the high school side, but we always, the kids just it's a thrill being around even our current high school kids. Us dad coaches, we sometimes our words, aren't as impactful as definitely your guys's. So it'll be cool to have you back, and if we can do that down the road. And one one really fun event that I wanted to revisit and get your feedback on from this past season. Your first, I think one of the first duels on the college calendar last year was with the Augustana, your team, Division II team, visited and did a duel against the Minnesota Gophers at the barn at Williams Arena. That was our first live stream of the year last year, and I got a chance to have your dad Kelly in the booth with me. It was just probably it'll be one of the coolest memories I've ever had, and will be in the future. And so, what was that experience like to wrestle there? And all the Waconia fans that were there. We had the youth kids there, the high school duel. Talk a little bit about your experience.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I wish I'd have wrestled a little better, but other than that, it was a great experience. I loved it. I mean, it was great having the Waconia crowd coming out and supporting me, Kate, and Timmy out there, and Josh. So it was sweet to come back and wrestle for Minnesota out there as well. I mean, I've always wanted to wrestle in the barn and grew up watching them, and that was a place obviously I looked at, but it was cool to just come out and get to experience that venue and that atmosphere, especially with the Waconia crowd as the background. I mean, I remember when our coach told us right away that we were wrestling Minnesota and Waconia was going to be before. I was like, yeah, there's going to be quite a bit of people, and the guys definitely didn't disappoint. It was a good time, and it's cool to come back and watch also the high school team. Whooping on who'd they face that day? I can't remember.
We had Tracy Milroy, Walnut Grove, and TMB. They came to wrestle. I would say that they had some good high quality wrestlers. I would say one of probably the standout performance was Maverick beat Devin Carter. I think it was at 126, 132 pounds, something like that. Devin Carter was the runner-up the previous year, and then he was state champion this past year. So that was cool. And then but it was great to see the kids, some kids emerging that were starting for the first time, and just on the same mat as you guys and the Gophers. And we had two buses. It was a dream. And the tickets were like, we got a bunch of them. I think they ended up being like less than $10 each. It was just, you couldn't. I know one of the buses. I think it might have been the youth bus. Was stuck on like 35. There was some traffic snarl that just got there like into like the second weight class. But beyond that, I think everything went flawless. So.
No, I agree. I was bummed out we didn't have it on our schedule this year, but hey, at least we got to experience it. It was awesome.
Yeah. So a couple more questions for you, and then we're going to get into rapid fire questions. But talk a little bit about I ask a lot of our guests this same question, but I think it's just prevalent. I mean, what are the main things that you value the most from the sport of wrestling, whether it's relationships or just the life lessons learned, or, just it's so tough that it just, demands that you learn how to, navigate adversity. What makes wrestling great for you?
I mean, I think it's kind of just shaped me into the person I am today. I mean, I like to think I'm a very hard worker because of the sport. The whole Dan Gable quote of once you've wrestled, everything in life seems easier. And, for me so far, that's kind of been the case, whether it was at an internship this past summer and thought that was easy compared to wrestling, went and worked landscaping this past summer. I thought that was easy, doing schoolwork. It's just like, well, it could be worse. Could be in a 30-minute go with Coach Jason Reitmeyer right now, or staff, So it could be worse. But I mean, for me, it's just obviously the bonds I've created. I mean, all my lifetime friends are all wrestlers that I've met through the sport, and I think that wrestling. I mean, I have a lot of friends that aren't in wrestling, but they've even set themselves that us wrestlers have a unique bond, and I think it's because what we go through, and obviously, we spend so much time together. I think it'd be almost hard not to like each other, first of all, and then I mean,
for sure.
I remember in high school when we were done with the tournament, it was always like, all right, whose house are we going to? Let's go have a big sleepover and let's go hang out. And then, now it's the same thing for me in college. I'm living with 6 other guys, and Just going through practices, all the blood, sweat, and tears through those practices, the ups and downs of them too. You're there having each other's backs, and I don't think you'll meet more loyal athletes than wrestlers just because they know what they go through, and it breaks your heart when you see them lose out there or fail, and you just want to help them get back to the next best thing, and I think that's all became through wrestling. It's just kind of made me hard worker. It's taught me how to have some, create goals in life. And I think that's a big thing for why I've gotten to where I am is that my parents always preached goals on me and, writing them down, putting them in my head, maybe I don't want to go for a run. And I think about what my goals are, is that going to get me closer to my goal? Making choices based off my goals, I think is, it's just taught me so much. I'm truly thankful for the sport, and that's why I can never really walk away from it. And that's why I need to come back and help out. So
that's awesome. No, very inspirational. I think you summed it up well. It's a sport unlike any other out there. And I grew up playing a variety of sports, but I as many know, I put a lot of effort into this because I just like you, we want to get as many more people into this sport as possible. It's just so teaches us so many lessons it's just hard to quantify. And it feels like it's very much like a fraternity or like a, or sorority. Cause I know we have like a lot more girls coming in, and our next podcast we will be recording soon. We will be talking more about girls wrestling, but it's just that belonging and that common bond that's really hard to quantify.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's great. I mean, it's not for everyone, that's for sure. And that's kind of why it's like, everyone can try it, but, I'm not going to sit here and say everyone's going to make it through it. But when you do make it through it, and, it just makes it that much more special, and you'll kind of realize the bonds you make are so special. So,
yeah, for sure. Well, want to get into a little bit of, again, getting to know Tyler and getting to know members of our wrestling community here a little bit. We're going to have some rapid fire questions, just like I did our last episode with Coach Avery. So Tyler, this is going to be, I'm going to start off with a pretty tough one. What is your Mount Rushmore, your top 4 wrestlers of all time that either that you've wrestled with as teammates or just, people that you look up to in the sport? Who's Tyler Wagener's Mount Rushmore of the sport of wrestling?
Well, I'm going to make it easy and just say the top 4 of, let's go. Right. Yeah, let's go. Gosh, you are putting me tough.
Yeah.
I'm going to go. I'm not going to do who I wrestle with because then I'm going to piss some people off. So I'm going to go Caleb Sanderson, Jordan Burroughs, Kyle Dake, David Taylor. Let's do that.
You thread the needle. You're going the politically correct route.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
First question.
I don't need to get some backlash after this episode from some of my teammates.
Yeah, for sure. What's in your Spotify or your Apple Music playlist? What are your favorite? What's your favorite band or bands?
Heck, I mean, lately it's been Zach Bryan. I went to a Zach Bryan concert the other day, and heck, he's phenomenal. So I've been listening to a lot of him, but I keep it light, man. I listen to pretty much anything. I'm mainly more country. I don't really like a ton of hard rap, but I'll definitely listen to it when got a lot of friends that like it. So I learned to enjoy it. But before matches and stuff like that, I'm pretty light. Heck, I'll even bump a little Katy Perry, Taylor Swift if I need to just get my vibe going. So
yeah,
I'm pretty easy going. So whatever gets me in a good mood that day.
There's nothing wrong with a good little pop song. There really isn't. I mean, it's really what's gonna set the mood for you to either relax, or some people really need to get hyped up. Some people need to relax a little bit to maybe go against some performance anxiety. So
it totally is funny legit. You say that because I have a couple people. I'm always bobbing my head when I'm going, and that a few people ask me like what I'm going. They think I'm listening to some hard stuff, and I'm like, oh no, that was Katy Perry going on right there. They think I'm mobbing about to go into a war, but I'm really just keeping it light a lot of the time. So
is it Katy Perry like Firework or Roar?
Yeah, either or. That type of music. I'm not saying Katy Perry in general, but A little hip hop, I'll listen to that. Heck yeah.
Awesome. What's like your favorite place to vacation?
For me, it's like a go up in the mountains, go hunting. That's my type of thing. But don't get me wrong, I love going out on the beach and having some fun with the guys or the family. That's fun. But for me, my dream is just going out in Colorado in the mountains, backpacking in, getting dropped off and going chasing elk or mule deer or whatever that is. That's me. So
Nice.
that's what I'll be doing once I get out of college. Just gotta save up some money first.
And I think the Wagener family is pretty active. You guys are pretty active fishers.
Yeah.
That's
Oh
correct.
yeah.
What's the biggest fish or the best story you've ever had on catching fish?
Honestly, it might have been Lake Waconia. I was bass fishing, and me and my brother were fishing out in Turds Bay. If people don't know, it's just a crappy little bay that doesn't have a ton of fish in it. We were frog fishing, and I had a 51-inch muskie blow up on my frog, and I got it in on the boat. So that was pretty sweet.
Wow.
Because there's people, they say it's a fish of 10,000 casts, but here I am fishing for bass and caught in on a topwater frog. So
And was it in shallow water too?
yeah, about 4
Wow.
feet of water too. I mean, it was middle of the summer. I mean, that thing had no business being there and biting on that lure that day, but for some reason it chose me and I got lucky, very lucky. It's funny because then 2 weeks later I caught a 44-incher bass fishing too. So I've been pretty lucky.
How'd you get that thing in the boat?
We had a net. And then
Okay.
I remember me and Josh were sitting there arguing. I was yelling at him saying, "Get the thing in the boat," because he kept missing it, and we're lucky enough to get it in. If we didn't get it in, then I'd probably be pretty mad right now.
Got it.
But yeah, that definitely is. That one's hard to beat. I don't know if I'll ever beat that one.
Awesome. Well, those are all the questions I have for you. I think I reserve the right to call you back for a part 2 down the road. I know that you and Cade and Josh and others are fans of our live stream operation, and I would try to give you some shout outs. So would be cool to do if it all lines up, like a co-commentary from, in person and from afar. We might be able to do something like that down the road. And I know we enjoy being able to watch you guys as well from afar, and we'll continue to keep up with you guys this year. And we'll definitely wish you guys all the best of luck, especially this season, your last season at Augie. And yeah. But any parting thoughts on anything else for all your fans out there?
No, love the support. Just keep it going. We got for you guys that didn't know, Sam McAnally come to Augustana now, so we got
that's right,
four alumni there. Yeah, we're pretty excited about that. Hopefully, we can get Carter and Maverick and whoever else wants to join. Let's get them going. Waconia to Augustana, baby.
Yeah, I think there's probably going to be some discussions and some reaching out. It's both Maverick and Carter have visions of wrestling in college, so they'd be I think it'd be awesome to continue to build the Waconia pipeline to Augustana. It's just a great program, great coaches, and you guys are great representatives. Likewise. So all right, well, I appreciate you joining us, Tyler, and we will hopefully catch everyone again. Stay tuned for more of our podcasts coming up. And Tyler, it's been a pleasure having you on. We're gonna let everybody enjoy our music, and Tyler, good luck this season, and God bless, buddy.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. This is great.
All right, thanks everyone. We will see you next time. Go Cats. Thanks, Tyler.
Yep, thanks, Jeff.